she hides it really well, and I don't know if hiding it or she handles it is probably the right thing to say. She handles the pressure.
And we've got to help her learn to adjust and use it against them in certain ways. We've got to find some ways to make it a little bit easier for her.
Something's gone terribly wrong when a league that's starving for stars loses its brightest light, and the entire system starts to crack. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie. She wasn't just a fan favorite. She was the financial foundation the WNBA had been begging for. And the moment she went down, the numbers didn't lie. Ticket prices collapsed, viewership nosedived, and behind the scenes, panic spread like wildfire. What caused this collapse wasn't just a groin injury. It wasn't a hard foul. It was a pattern of silence, defiance, and some say deliberate neglect. We're about to walk you through the exact moment the WNBA's biggest gamble backfired, and how one injury may have just exposed the league's real priorities once and for all. July 15th, 2025. Indiana versus Connecticut. The Fever were leading late in the fourth, and on the surface, it looked like just another gritty win, but then it happened. Clark drove, passed off, and turned to run up court when she collided with Connecticut guard Jacy Sheldon. To most, it looked like a minor bump, but Clark's reaction told a different story. She froze, reached down, clutched her groin, and for the first time in her entire professional career, she showed something rare: visible pain. Not frustration, not fatigue, real pain. Then came the walk, not a jog, not a limp. A slow, gut-wrenching walk to the bench where she buried her face in a towel and broke down. Fans who followed her from Iowa had never seen that side of her before. This wasn't just another knock, it was a breaking point, and it showed just how much damage had already been done. Hours after Clark's injury was announced, a new number surfaced, one that said more than any press release ever could: 48%. That's how much All-Star Game ticket prices plummeted across secondary markets. In some listings, the crash was even worse. Seats that were going for $220, now $109. Lower bowls that fans were fighting over, down to $80 and dropping. This wasn't just sticker shock, it was a market verdict. Without Clark, the All-Star weekend wasn't just less exciting, it was worth half as much. For a league constantly fighting for relevancy, it was a public gut punch. This wasn't a social media debate. It was raw, undeniable data. Caitlin Clark wasn't part of the product. She was the product, and now she was out. The crash didn't stop at the ticket booth. Viewership tanked. ESPN, ABC, and streaming platforms saw a sharp decline in engagement just days after the injury.
So as you guys can see here, she is dribbling down, she plants her foot, she passes the ball to Kelsey Mitchell on the back door, and then when she is running back on the other end of the court, it seems like she's grabbing.
One network insider leaked that early projections for All-Star Game ratings were now 50% below expectations. Indiana Fever home games that were selling out earlier in the season, suddenly you could find rows of empty seats on resale apps, something we hadn't seen since before Clark arrived. And merch? According to leaked data from a major retailer, Clark's jersey sales were down nearly 42% within 48 hours of the injury announcement. One player, one hit, and millions evaporated almost overnight. Here's the twist. This wasn't unpredictable. It wasn't a freak accident. The warning signs were there months ago, and the league chose to look the other way. Go back to June 17th. Same teams, same bad blood. That night, Clark took a poke to the eye from Jacy Sheldon, then got shoved hard to the floor by Marina Mabrey moments later. Chaos broke out. Afterward, the WNBA released a stunning statement admitting that referees failed to control the game. Think about that. The league publicly admitted its own officials let things get out of hand, and yet nothing changed. There were no suspensions, no fines, no increased protections. And a month later, the exact same team hit her again. And this time, it stuck. That's not a coincidence. That's a system breaking down in real time. As the hits kept coming, Clark stayed silent. But the people around her didn't. Her brother, Colin Clark, posted a furious message after the July 15th injury. Make no mistake, this is on the reffing. The tweet was deleted within hours. Why delete it? Probably because it wasn't just a brother venting online. It was a fire alarm, and one the league didn't want blaring across social media. Even her coach, Stephanie White, didn't hold back. After the earlier Connecticut game, she told reporters, "I started talking to the refs in the first quarter. We knew this was going to happen. They've got to get control." She wasn't just blaming the officials, she was blaming the system. A system that was either asleep at the wheel or willfully ignoring the crash ahead. Here's where things get even more unsettling. Behind the scenes, insiders say there was a calculated strategy to downplay Caitlin Clark's star power. The goal? Build the league, not just the individual. Let the public believe the WNBA was about physicality, competition, and parity, not just the Caitlin Clark show. So, the league didn't intervene when she got pushed around. They didn't blow the whistle when she took elbows or hip checks because they wanted to send a message. This league is tough, and no one is bigger than the game. The problem? That strategy blew up in their face. You can't build a league by breaking its biggest star. And when that star crumbles, the entire structure collapses with her. As the spotlight on Clark intensified, the media's tone subtly shifted. Suddenly, talking heads weren't asking why she was being hacked every game. They were asking if she was tough enough for the league. You've heard the phrases, "It's just welcome to the league" treatment. She needs to earn her respect. This happens to all rookies, but here's the catch. It wasn't true. No other rookie, male or female, has faced this level of contact without the protection of the whistle. And no other player has ever carried this much financial weight for a league this size. This wasn't hazing. This was a strategy, wrapped in sports cliches to make it palatable. The league and its media partners had a clear narrative. Clark is good, but she's not above the game. And by framing her mistreatment as part of her initiation, they gave cover to teams, referees, and even executives who wanted to keep the hits coming. Because let's be honest, if you admit she's being targeted, then you admit she needs protection. And the league wasn't ready to have that conversation until the stock price of their All-Star game dropped 48%. Here's the harsh reality no one in the WNBA front office wants to say out loud. They knew. They saw the fouls, the body checks, the bruises, and they made a decision to do nothing. Why? Because silence gave them flexibility. If they didn't acknowledge the targeting, they didn't have to act. If they didn't intervene, they didn't have to admit fault. It was damage control by avoidance. But there's something they didn't count on. Numbers don't lie. The injury was one thing, but the market's response? That was impossible to ignore. Investors, sponsors, resellers, they all started asking the same question. If this league's value drops in half without one player, what are we really investing in? That kind of question doesn't get answered with PR spin. It gets answered with action, or in this case, exposure. Because what the league just learned is brutal, simple, and permanent. You don't get to stay silent when the money starts screaming.